right. What's up? We already got a few people in chat. What's up, Fitness? Question for you, Fitness. Did you want to hop on and do the mock interview today? If so, shoot me an email. I didn't see one come through. I know we talked about it last Thursday, but if you do, shoot it over. We'll invite you in and we'll do a mock interview session today. Yes, hype, hype. Welcome. I see a new person in chat. Welcome. Yeah, so this is the InfoSec Wizard stream where we do stuff. We do cybersecurity stuff, right? In the pursuit of getting people experience to do it for real in the real world, and also to give me an outlet to do technical stuff again. As a manager, I don't get to play as much, but I very much love it. As much, if not more than you. I dare say, maybe more than you. We'll see. Prove me wrong, right? But today, we're going to be... so he has a killer mind guard. Yes, we want you as your best self, Fitness, as we torture you with a mock interview. So that's okay. We'll get it on here one of these weeks. But, yeah, so today then... So no mock interview, but if you're on here, you want your resume reviewed, kick it over to the email, let me know you sent it, and we can do your resume. So do a resume roast at the end, and it should be fun. Hopefully get some good feedback for you to implement as part of your journey, the program you're designing for you. Otherwise, what we're going to do, so in case this is your first time joining the stream, the past 2 weeks, what we've been doing is building a lab that we can start doing some cool stuff in. So we set up a Windows host. We have installed Elastic and Kibana on there. We've also put on FileBeat for pulling logs, and then we have also set up Sysmon and PowerShell logs. So we have a good lab. It's pulling telemetry for us. That's what we've done the last 2 weeks. If you want to catch up, those videos are posted. I did leave them up there after an overwhelming, Mike, please leave these up. I want to come back and watch them. We're leaving them up on the YouTube channel. But today what we're going to do is we're going to start attacking ourselves so that we can go into the logs and see what it looks like. I know many of you probably haven't done this, and believe it or not, there's a lot of professionals that haven't done this who actually do this work, and this is definitely leaning into the purple team side of things. So if you're interested in that path, this is going to be a great stream for you. Really, it really is. So it should be fun. We'll be using Kali, so we'll be flicking back and forth between a Windows VM and a Kali VM. We're going to use the Kali VM to prepare our attacks, and then we're going to execute them on a Windows host, and then we're going to dig in the logs to see what it looks like. And the idea behind this is, as an analyst, right, you're looking at after effects of an attack, and we have to be able to look at the results, the logs, the telemetry that we have, and be able to interpret what is actually going on to tell the story. This is the stuff that you'll be doing as a professional, and it's the stuff you're going to be asked about in your interviews. So interviews do get pretty technical. This is, we're building that experience with these labs. So that's what we're doing today. It'll be pretty fun. I don't know what type of attacks we'll do yet. Maybe a PowerShell download Cradle. That'll probably be a good one. I can show you what I mean if you see me talk about the PowerShell script logging logs. That is a mouthful every time I mess it up. Those logs decoding payloads so you can see them. Maybe do a Meterpreter shell. That might be pretty fun, and we can do some fun stuff with Meterpreter, and we can see what it looks like. Other than that, maybe create users, create scheduled tasks, do some of the persistence type things. But yeah, we'll have some fun. And feel free to chime in chat to say, hey, let's do this. Hey, let's do that. And we'll see if I can't accommodate you. There are a lot of tools out there. What I'll probably do is turn off Defender just so we don't have to fight that. I know you're like, you're making it easy on you. But the intention isn't to build a complex payload, but rather to see what the payloads look like for us as defenders. So, without further ado, let's dive into the lab. Let's go. Hype. Party. Do all the fun stuff. Let's have fun. While I get this going, what's some wins? What kind of wins do we have this week? I know we got some out there. Was it, do we have any new certifications this week? Do we have any job interviews? Do we have any job offers out there? We had one person that's had a couple of interviews. Shoot some of the wins in the chat. It'll help not only motivate me, but it'll motivate all these other folks that are in chat with you. They like to see that, hey, it's working. Because I'll tell you, just looking out on LinkedIn and other stuff, so many people are like, no one responds to my resumes. No one responds to my applications. So I'm sure it'll be good news for them to hear, yes, someone's at least getting traction. And if they say something, ask them questions. Hey, what are you doing? Get some advice from them. This is a community here, and we can feed off of each other and give each other advice. A couple of weeks ago, someone shared their resume template. It was a killer template, by the way. They were willing to share it with the community on Discord. So keep it up. Keep it up. Yeah, Fitness had a fun CTI-like report that he submitted. What killer constraints? Had to do it all in one page. Oof, tough, man, tough. All right, so we're going to recap just real quick what we have here. So FileBeat, you heard me talk about, all it is sending logs to our Kibana Elastic stack over here so that we can look in here and see the logs. That's all it's doing. So with that, we should start seeing stuff. Now, let's go ahead and test and make sure our logging is working. I don't know if we broke anything by turning it off. So let's go ahead and check it. Let's run something. Let's get event codes. Let's run it for. Change our date here, and let me know if you have trouble seeing my screen. I can zoom in and adjust it so everyone can see. And also, if your lab is set up, please feel free to follow along, and we can help you troubleshoot along the way as well. We are going to just do the last 24 hours. Cool, we're getting logs, beautiful. So some are getting shipped in, they may be old logs, I don't know. 1847. Let's execute something in the command line here, and we're going to say calc. We're just going to pop calc classic, right? Pop calc. We're just doing this just to make sure we're getting the logs here. Okay, that's all we're doing here. And we should see logs coming in. It also depends, I don't know what the frequency is of our logs being ingested. So for those of you who don't know, part of the architecture is, or part of setting up the log ingestion is setting up how frequently it is going to communicate those logs to wherever you're storing them. So that is a big piece of it. I don't know what that is. I guess I should look that up. I don't know what we set it to, but regardless, we should start seeing stuff come in, and we'll give it a second to see. Sometimes it's 5 minutes, sometimes it's not. If it's not appropriate, like if it's not good enough, we'll go ahead and adjust it, because I want kind of near real-time log ingestion so that we can see the logs coming in appropriately. And what we're looking here is for calc.exe to pop up. We should see that in our sysmon 1s. That's what we're looking at here, sysmon 1. And we don't see it yet. So let's see, let's go check out index management. So this is where all the logging kind of configurations are. So we're going to go check that out, make sure it's actually working. Because it may not be. Something may have broken while we suspended our thing, or suspended our VM. So who knows? We will see. Let's see, DS file. So many in here. What we'll do is look up data streams. I think that was the easier way to get to it. Health is yellow. What does that mean? So it may just have to catch up. There may be like a backlog or something. I don't know what yellow means. We can ask though. Oh, it was the DS one. That's good to know. Settings. So just so everyone is aware, I don't typically do, so refresh interval is 5 seconds. So that's good. I think that's what it means. But I was going to say, I'm not an engineer by trade. Technically, I am an engineer, but not a sim engineer. I am a breaker of things. That is my title. So I think we have what we want, which is to say, hey, it should be ingesting. We're just not seeing it yet. And it just may need time to get going. So it looks like there's a big break. We should see a steady stream. We'll do last 3 hours. So these must be like all the backlog when it started pushing them back, and it's probably trying to resolve itself, which is fine. So we did get them right when I turned it on, because I turned the VM on at about this time, but we hadn't started getting any logs since. So there may be an issue here. Let's see if FileBeat is running. It is running here. So the question is, why is it not pushing logs? That's the question. And this is a good problem for us to run into now in case someone else has the same problem, right? We want to be able to help people work through their problems. And that's what you're going to run into when you do stuff like this, is that you're going to run into problems. You're going to have to overcome problems. That's just the nature of the game. What is the disabled? Data retention disabled. I don't know what that means. Failure store disabled. Cool. Effective data retention. Let's see. Is there somewhere to edit data? You must edit its associated ILM policy. So we're not really caring about data retention. We just want it to start working. So I wonder if we turn it off and back on, like everything else in cybersecurity, if it will work. Let's see. Well, it should be working. We're in FileBeat. We've done setup. So what's not working here? I'm trying to think through what the issue may be, because we have 3 services we're running here. We have Elastic, we have Kibana, we have FileBeats. FileBeat's running. Let's look at the rest of them. Let's see if Kibana and the rest are in here. So here's FileBeat. I don't see Kibana. Hey, Bay, how's it going? Doing good. Doing good. We're just troubleshooting today to see what the heck is going on. Let's see. We're looking for Kibana, and I would expect it to show up in here. I don't see either one of them in here, which is kind of interesting that we don't see either one. They may be in services, though. I know we at least set up one of them. So here's Elastic. Elastic service is stopped. Maybe that's the issue. So Elastic's the back end. FileBeat's running. Elastic, FileBeat. Let's make sure. I don't see Kibana. Maybe we accidentally didn't install Kibana as a service. So the service is the difference between running a program and a service, is that the service is kind of running in the background, and the process isn't necessarily, right? And the services a lot of time are running as an elevated user, where processes are just running as the current user. So There is a slight difference. Let's see if we got anything with starting up the Kibana or the Elastic process. Kibana is the front end. No, we still don't have it. Let's see. I'll look at it in a session. We got a question in the audience today. Barum, welcome back again. Or Bayram, sorry. Let's see if it'll let me click here, so I can show it on the stream what you're typing in. So quick question, I have an AI security job interview, assuming mainly about agentic agents. I never had this experience as our SOC is on-prem, but have finished 2 courses regarding the big picture. How would I be able to put an interview to the hiring managers? How would I be able to put in an interview to the hiring managers? No, could you refine your question for me? No, it's fine. I think it's relevant for sure. I'm not sure what you're asking here. Are you trying to, how are you going to convey that experience? Just do me a favor and refine your question a little bit so I can answer it better. I want to make sure I'm answering it for you. And I am going to continue to troubleshoot while you do that. Let's see. Let's see if we're getting errors. So it looks like there are some errors here. And this is Kibana. Unable to create alerts because encrypted state object is missing encryption key. Error while trying to load pre-release flag. I wonder if we restart this process, if it'll fix all of our issues. And we should probably set this up as a service, because I didn't see this as a service, but probably should set it up as that. It looks like it was running though in the background because it was acting like it was. But we'll see. We'll see in a second. We should see some stuff flying around here in the command line that shows that it's working. So apologies that we have to do a little bit of troubleshooting, but I'm sure many of you who have done labs kind of fall in the same bucket. And so this is one of those skills. We want to make sure you are equipped to be able to handle these types of things. And this is part of being in cybersecurity, being in IT in general, is handling stuff going wrong, because nothing ever works ever. Even in the largest organization, stuff breaks all the time. It's crazy. All right, so we got a reply back. So I don't have experience with agentic AI and security infrastructure. That being said, would it be cool if I tell them I don't have specific agentic AI experience? Yes. However, and this is, I would definitely read the job description. You should convey that at least you have lab experience and whatnot. Because you said you've finished 2 courses regarding it, so just talk to that as much as possible. You want to convey that you do, even if you don't have real life on the job experience. If they're entry level roles or beginner roles, having that and being able to talk to the subject, answer those questions, they're going to go a long way for you. For instance, a lot of times I interview candidates with 0 cybersecurity experience, 0 on-the-job experience. And so in that case, with me hiring them, I need to rely on the lab experience, which to me is okay. However, they have to have it. If they don't have it, if they aren't able to talk to that lab experience, they're not going to get very far in the interview. And I cannot reasonably say they have those skills that I need them to have in order to operate in that role. So your job during this interview is being able to convey that you have those foundational skills, that you would be a good hire because you're going to pick up pretty quick. So that's what you want to convey as well as possible. So just something to think about. I know it's kind of a high level answer, but in general, that's what you're doing when you're interviewing. You're conveying, hey, if I don't have this experience, if I've never done this role before, I'm going to be able to pick it up pretty quick, and I have a really good foundation to go off of. So when you're conveying that, you're telling the hiring manager, you're not going to have to waste a ton of time on me to get me up to speed. You're going to have to only invest like a small amount of time. I'll be up to speed and I'll be able to take it from there. What a hiring manager doesn't want to see is, whew, this is going to be quite the investment, almost like, you know, the difference between buying a brand new car versus like a old school fixer upper. Same with a house. You buy a brand new house that's never been lived in, or you buy one that's a little bit run down. You know, one's going to take a lot more time investment than the other. So, you know, they don't want a project hire. You know, they don't want someone they have to invest a ton of time in. They're busy. They have stuff to do. They have, I was going to say money to make, which they do, but they have customers to serve. So just keep that in mind. You're welcome. Yeah, definitely not only tell them that you're a fast learner, show them, you know, talk about all this training that you're doing. People love it. Love to see that not only that you've done it, but that you can talk to it. I've seen some resumes that are just loaded down with SANS courses, all these other courses, and they can't talk to any of it. Zero. And it's pretty obvious that they were just, you know, turning and burning on these courses. They didn't learn anything. You know, what's the point of investing time in this stuff if you're not going to learn? You know, there's a difference being intentional with your time versus just doing it to do it. And it's going to come out in the interview. As soon as you can't talk about the stuff, they're going to know. I'm like, okay, they're just trying to check the box here. So don't let that be you. Feel free to review the notes and stuff that you took in those courses to refresh it in your mind. It's not going to hurt anything. All right. Looks like it's still loading here. It's taking a while. While it's doing that, let's go ahead and turn over to Kali and get some stuff cruising along here. So first things first is that we need to make sure these two hosts can talk. So what we need to do is we need to check the, like, kind of how they're situated. So you can do that down here at the bottom right. You can see where my mouse is. We can look. They're both in bridged mode, and they may or may not be able to talk. So we'll see. I'll do a we'll do a ping between these two and see if it works while it's loading. So we'll say, shoot, let's get rid of this. I'm not sure that they will. I don't think they will. Yeah. No, it worked. Okay. Because they were on different subnets, so I didn't think they were going to work. But they're working. So we have communication, so we can start doing cool stuff. Beautiful. It's still chugging along here in the background. So the first thing let's do, if anyone's ever touched Metasploit and played with shell creation, that's what we're going to do. So don't be scared. It's going to be fun. It's going to be okay. Again, if you want to follow along, feel free to follow along. So first thing, we're going to walk through it like we don't know what we're doing. And I don't know the syntax off the top of my head, although I should by now. I don't. So we'll say something like Metasploit. Nope, we'll do MSF Venom Interpreter Payload. Interpreter payload syntax. And there's probably an easier way to do this. I'm just old school. So this is giving us the basic payload. We want a Windows reverse TCP. Perfect. So let's grab this. And if you've been hanging out with me, you know I love to do stuff in Notepad first, or Mousepad in this case. So this is, for those of you who don't know, this is MSF Venom builds or allows you to create shells in the command line for Metasploit. So Metasploit is a pen testing framework that allows you to have those two-way communications. So when you hear the word command and control, that's basically what you're doing with Metasploit. However, it has a lot more fun stuff to go with it as well, where we can actually do exploitation with it. Okay, so we do have the ability to execute exploits, but in this case, we're just going to catch a shell. So we're just going to catch something calling back out. And the idea is that this is, say, like a user who got phished and they executed a PDF or ran, it could be like one of those click fix attacks where they ran some code, it executed malware. That malware is going to call back somewhere and someone's going to get a shell. Not me, someone else is going to get a shell. We are emulating that. That's what we're emulating here. So keep that in mind. And no worries, that's what the chat's here for. Is blow it up with whatever questions you have. Happy to answer them. Everyone's learning from your questions. And so I try to answer them in a way that it's applicable to more scenarios as well as best that I can. So really good question. No worries at all. Thank you for being brave enough to speak up. Some people aren't. So no worries. All right, so let's get back to building our shell. First thing we need to do here, we need our L host. So L host is the listening host. For those of you who are confused, like what's the listening host? The listening host is where you're calling back to. So this is a reverse shell. That means it calls back to the attacker. We're not connecting to it as the attacker. The shell is calling back to us and connecting back to us. Almost like a boomerang, right? It's coming back. That's what we're going to do with it. Now, this P here is the exact payload. There's a bunch of options that we can use with payloads. Definitely, if this is fun to you, dig into it a little bit more. But this here is Meterpreter, which is what I wanted to do. It has more fun stuff in it that we can utilize. That's why we're using it. But the payload needs to match the operating system you're targeting. So there are Linux variants, Unix variants, there's Perl, you name it. They probably have a variant of a payload for that system. Now, reverse, again, is what we're doing. Reverse TCP, we're calling back. So if this is a fun lab for you, set it up on your own, and I encourage you to play with the different payloads to see how they work, because it is a good time. All right, L port is the port that it's going to call back on. So for those of you who have done Security Plus, CYSA, or Network Plus, you should know about ports and services. So ports and services are like, say, we're connecting to a web server. Likely we're connecting to port 80 or port 443, which is HTTP, and HTTPS. If we're connecting to FTP, probably 21 and 20. That's what we mean by ports. However, so something a lot of folks don't know is that you can assign anything to any port for the most part. So in this case, we choose what port we want to be on. It makes no difference. It just means that we have to have something on that port listening for this communication at the end of the day. That's it. So we can use whatever we want. And I'm going to put it here in just a call out to the folks here watching. If you have any questions about anything I say, please, please, please don't hesitate to ask in chat. I can dive in and dive as deep as we want. I can try to explain in a different way if it's confusing. I want to make sure you're walking away from the stream with new information that is going to help you on your journey here. Okay, so a lot of these are, we're going to be nipping up against slightly complex topics. So I understand I may need to explain some stuff, so no worries here. All right, so we can pick any port we want, right? So I like to typically do like 80 or 443, just so it may blend in. It looks like it's just connecting over the internet. And then TAC F is what we want, what type of file we want it to be outputted as. So this is going to build us an executable, which is what works in Windows, right? And then the TAC-O is whatever it's going to be called. So we're just going to, the file that's going to be created is going to be called shell.exe. With that, our payload is ready to be created. Who's ready to see a shell created? Let's do it. So we just paste in our command that we built, hit enter, and then Kali is going to do all the work for us. And you'll see some output. Don't be scared by it. It does a lot of like figuring out for us. So we didn't select a platform. it chose based on the payload selection because it was Windows x64. No architecture selected, so it chose it from the payload, which is x64. So architecture is going to be x86, x64. There are a few other ones as well, but those are going to be your major ones, especially in the Windows world. So keep that in mind. And then it tells you what there was no encoding, so we have some other options here. And then it gives us the payload size. So this is pretty small, right? Payload size is 510. Final file size is significantly bigger. And then we have shell.exe. Let's see if we have it. And we do indeed. Shell.exe. We have some other ones in here as well. But we'll look at those in a second. We have a question in chat. Do you think if you can, maybe stream, try Hack Me SOC 1 roadmap? I think it could be a structured way and people will benefit tons. My only concern is, could you share Try Hack Me materials live? Yeah, I can definitely do that. The problem that I was running into when I was doing the SOC 1 road was that it was so much reading material I didn't want to read. I thought that wasn't the best, but we could definitely orient around these SOC roles. We could definitely do that. Or if folks have a specific area they would like to dig into more, you could definitely let me know on Discord or in the community that I'll be sharing today. You can let me know in there. Just let me know what you need. Some of this stuff is confusing. Some of it needs more explanation. So I'm here to help you out. Let's see, we got another one here. Most people are trying to break into a SOC. I see a lot of reading with Try Hack Me, explaining could be better, maybe. Yeah, so we were doing a lot of Try Hack Me. Actually, I have a subscription just for this stream, so we were definitely doing it before. I wanted to break out of that a little bit and show some folks how to do it on their own if they wanted. So a lot of the learning is really going to happen when you start experimenting, start playing with the ideas that you're learning. So I for sure want to encourage people to kind of break out of the box there, the Try Hack Me box and do stuff. But that is a good place to get introduced to concepts such as doing Metasploit, doing custom or basic exploitation, learning how to look in logs. A lot of great stuff there. We'll probably work our way back to Try Hack Me again. So don't worry, we'll be back there. And we'll look at, I'll probably do just labs based on the materials and maybe systematically walk through that. I don't know. I'll play with it, open to ideas there. If you can think of a structured way to do it besides just reading, I'm definitely down. So again, I'm here for you. All right, now we have it produced. Let's move to set up our listener because that's the important thing. We have our file. We got to move it to the host. We'll do that in a second. But we also have to have a listener ready to catch the callback. So let's get the listener set up. So we'll do Control-Shift-T. Oops. I opened a new tab in the browser. In this one, we'll try it again. Control-Shift-T. And I always do sudo su because I don't remember. I'm lazy to do sudo every time. But anyways, I don't remember which things require root and which ones don't. So I just do everything as root, which is really bad practice. I don't do this in a real environment. Also, by the way. All right, so let's start up MSF console. And I'll drop that into chat. This is Metasploit. So if you haven't seen it before, this is what everyone has been talking about. This is Metasploit. Here's a command to get it going on your side. All right, next thing we need to do is we need to now set up that listener. So we're going to say use, let's see, exploit multi-handler. So this is the handler, the thing that's going to handle our callback, okay? So next we need to show info, or show options rather. We want to see what it's currently using. So let me make my screen a little bit bigger. All right. So what we don't have a lot of options here. We do see the payload option. This is important. It has to match the payload that we created, which is fine. We just change it. So we come up here, we're just going to copy this guy. Make sure you copy it exactly. And we're going to say set payload. And then we're going to say set our payload. So now when we do show options, we see that our payload is now exactly what we want it to be. Perfect. Next, we need to set the L host. So we need to tell it where to listen for this callback. There's a few ways to do this. We could either type in our IP again or set it to the interface. So we could say set L host to Eth0, which is the Ethernet 0 interface, and it will automatically interpret the IP address. So if you don't want to type in the whole IP address, this is a little shorthand for you to do. All right, so we have that one. So I'm just doing show options every time so you can see what's occurring. We're systematically changing stuff. So we just changed this one. Now, what's left? We need to change L port to match the one that we created, which was, if we look back here, port 80. So now we just say set L port 80. Boom, done. So with that, we are done. We have everything set up. It matches our payload exactly, which is what we wanted to do. All of these options have to match our handler so that it knows what it needs to do. Now all we do is we say run. Easy. All right, we have one more thing to do. I know, you thought we were done. We're not. So next we need to transfer the payload to the victim. Windows is the victim. But before we do that, what we're going to do is turn off Defender because it's going to catch it. Any of these Metasploit payloads are going to get caught immediately. Immediately. So when we're just playing in the lab, we'll turn it off. On your real system, do not do this. Keep it on. It is, you don't want to put yourself at risk. That's why we do these things in labs, folks. We do this in labs to protect ourselves. And I will tell you, even though you turn it off once, whenever you reboot or start up your VM again, it's probably going to be back on and you'll have to delete it again, which is fine because you just go back in there and turn it off. No big deal. All right. Whew. Talking way too much. All right, is everyone excited? We get to see an interpreter payload. We get to see real C2. Yeah, we're excited, maybe. My hair is a mess today. I feel like a mad scientist almost. That's okay. All right, so now that's off. Now we need to transfer the payload. This is one of the skills you have to learn as a penetration tester. How do I move files from system to system? Okay, file transfer. There's several techniques we could do. We could do SMB, where we push and pull files with SMB. Well, you pull files via SMB, but we could push them if we're curating files. We could do a web server, which is what we're about to do. You could do FTP, you could do SSH. We could do a lot of stuff to transfer files. I would say for most cases, it's easier just to do a simple web server. So we'll use Python to do that because, again, it's simple. So we'll do Python, HTTP server, just like this, except we need to change our port. We'll change it to 8080. And what this is going to do is it's going to basically serve up all the files that are in this folder. Okay, I know that's confusing. So we're in our home folder. This is our home folder as well. So with this web server, all these files are going to be accessible by whoever connects to the web service, that is. So we hit this. Now what we're going to do is we could do a few different things here to access this file. So we could either go to it via the browser, right? We could just say, drop this in here and then say 8080. It'll come up. So we have it. The browser may block our stuff. We could transfer via PowerShell or CertUtil. Those are also options. We'll try to send it like this, and if it doesn't work, we will do it a different way. Let's keep it. Keep anyway. All right, so it worked. We got the file. All right, so we now have shell.exe. What we're doing, again, I just want to show you what it looks like to execute stuff. We're not trying to do anything crazy exploitation. We just want to see stuff working in our lab. That's all we want to do here, folks. Let's go, while we're in here, let's check Elastic to see if it's decided to work for us. We should see logs since 1845. Maybe. We're letting it load up. So basically, something else a lot of folks don't know is that during the log ingestion, stuff may stop working and just kind of piles them up. And then whenever it gets the connection again, it'll send them up. But that's kind of how it's designed to work. No biggie. So we have some of it. We have the if config. We have the Kibana here. Oh, you know what? We have that on here. Let's do search without CMD. See what we have. Have a lot more here. So let me see if I can move this up. Nope. That's kind of annoying, isn't it? I wonder if I can change the layout here, because this is kind of annoying. Let's see. Let's see if we can find what we were doing here. So let's do calc. So I don't remember what it shows up. Here it is. So this is what we did earlier. So we are getting the logs in that we wanted. We're good. We got calc. Not a worry. All right, so we should be able to see this file execute as well. Beautiful. So what we need to do now is with this, we need to navigate to cd users, and we need downloads. We'll do a dir. Dir is a command to list the directory here in Windows. Sheesh. All right, so next thing is that we need to run the tool or the payload that we generated, which we will do by just calling it. Just like we would any exe, all we have to do is call it and it will execute. So we shall do that. And it should run, and then we should see a connection over here. So we do. So I want to point out two things before we move on here. We ran the file, but when we downloaded, this is it being downloaded from the web server. Remember, we set up a web server. We're getting logs from those connections. So we see it right here. This host did a GET request for shell.exe. Perfect. That's exactly what we want to see. And then over here, we see interpreter session 1 opened. And we see that 113 connected to 192.168.1.10. This is the victim. Okay. And with that, we can say sysinfo. Get UID. So this is the host. To prove to you, this is the host here. PWD. So if we list this, we should see all the files on the system of our victim. So we see everything here. We have this kind of ability. Now, let's go back and look in Elastic to see what all has occurred. So let's go here. We'll just click, yep. And we could probably do the last, we'll say last 10 minutes to narrow down what we have. Oh, we actually have it right here. It'll be fine. It'll reload, but we'll see it. So we have 16 files total. This thing is driving me nuts in terms of the layout. Let's see if we can change this layout. Can we make this bigger? Oh, beautiful. We can make it bigger. Okay. So hit escape to make screen smaller. Okay, cool. So this is what we have here. So this is all this stuff. And I'm going to tell you, in a real environment, there's going to be a lot of noise. There's going to be a ton of noise. Not everything in here is bad. That's part of the art, is you differentiating what's normal versus what's bad. And this may seem pretty obvious to you, right? This seems pretty obvious. Shell.exe, yeah, this is bad. Of course, Mike, this is bad. But when it's named something similar to like one of these other things, this is normal. So we name it this. Can you tell the difference between this and something bad? Those are the things that we have to pay attention to as analysts, okay? So what I want you to notice is that we don't see any of these other commands that were executed. We did a dir, we did a pwd, we did a ls. Not all of these things are going to show up. If it's built into the shell, as in like the command line, it's not going to show up in process creation logs because a new process didn't have to spin up to do it. This is going to be confusing. A lot of people don't know this, but stuff like, just like I said, just some of these aren't going to show up in there. But if we did something like, say calc, that is going to show up in our logs, or should show up in our logs. Let me see. Let me move this. We'll reload, and we should see it pop up. Maybe. Here's command.exe. So we actually didn't see calc yet, but we did see a new command line open up on the system. And it may just be delayed slightly. There it is. Perfect. So it did, even though it didn't catch PWD, it didn't catch our dir, it did catch calc because a new process was actually created. Okay, so I want to make that clear. A new process was created, therefore this became a log. Okay, so now what I do want to show you is we have a lot of stuff here. We want more please. So when we're looking through these logs, there's a couple of fields that can be very, very helpful to us as analysts. And so when we're looking through the logs, we want to extract, we want to make apparent the fields that are going to help us investigate events. Okay, so one of those things is going to be, so we have command line here, we have image here, we have timestamp, which is obviously powerful. What we also want, in bigger environments, we for sure want host name. We don't need it here because there's not a lot of hosts. It's just this guy. What we also want is, I'm trying to find it here. We should have parent command line. Parent command line. Where's it at? We'll type it up here. Parent command line right here. So this is the parent process. Remember last time we talked about the process hierarchy. This is one of those things. And then another fun thing that we can look at is parent process ID. And then we could also look at process ID as well. And that is going to be process ID right here. And so we can kind of rearrange these a little bit probably. So I try to do things in order that makes sense to me. So we're going to say parent process ID, parent, if it'll work. I don't know why it's slowing down now. We'll move this up. Here we go. And then we'll do process ID, command line, and we might not need image anymore, but that's okay. All right, so now we have a few things that look pretty cool. So we have the event code here, we have CMD, we have calc, so we can see, I'm just trying to make sure I'm in order here. So we can see that process ID doesn't have a field in there. Interesting. So let's go back and fix that. We should have a field in, let's see, parent ID, parent process ID, parent command line. Let's see if we can find one of these with an actual information in it. No field data. No field data. There we go. Let's add this instead. There you go. That should help us out. I need to get rid of some of these other fields though. So we're going to get rid of this one. And let's go ahead and get rid of the image. Clean it up. All right, and we're going to move our columns around again. I want my PIDs first, and it's just how I read stuff. I put them in the order that I read them, okay? So let's go back and look at this back. So what I want to point out is that we see process PID. This is wrong. This doesn't make sense. Usually this is unique, okay? And so that's how I know something's wrong there, is that it's not unique. It doesn't make any sense. Let's see if this produces any data. So for whatever reason, these PID fields aren't producing any data, which is bizarre. There might be an issue somewhere with parsing or something like that. And we can take a closer look if there is. There we go. Maybe this will solve our problem. Let's get rid of this one. And let's sort our columns one more time. Darn it. There we go. All right, cool. Let's look at it one more time. Maybe we got it right. Okay, we got it right. So this is what I wanted to show you. So this is that parent-child process relationship that we're talking about. See this? This is the process ID. This here is the parent process. You see how it's shown up in the parent process? Because it's spawning these other things. So if we look at this, right, if we look at it logical, sequential in time, we are seeing that this was created. So this is the process ID here. So 10.172. And then that process created the command.exe instance. So we created a command.exe instance with it. And then this command.exe instance, right here, we followed the PID, created calc, which is exactly what happened. We spawned a shell, we ran calc. So this is us interpreting exactly what we did, but we're doing it in the logs. So pause, any questions? Does that make sense to folks? You see what we're doing here? It can get really confusing really, really fast, I know. But feel free to drop those questions in chat. Now, the other thing I want to show you is how we can tie network connections from processes back. So let's look at that really, really quick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just duplicate this tab because I want to keep it open. And I'm going to remove that one because we didn't need that tab, and we'll take a peek again. Welcome. If you're just joining us, feel free to drop questions in chat. We're here answering questions as we do a little bit of purple teaming. So we're launching attacks, we're reviewing the attacks. So we're not doing any pre-built labs. We're building the lab as we go here, building the plane as we fly it, if you've ever heard that term. Now, the next thing that I want is we're going to edit this filter. If it will let me. So it's being funny. It's messing with me. It's messing with me here. It won't let me edit the filter. There we go. All right, so we're going to say 3. And if you don't know these values, there are other ways to find them. I just know them because I've been doing this for 10 years now. So um, they are in my brain as I sleep, unfortunately. Sad face. And what we want to do is I'm just going to do it normal. There's not a lot of logs here, so we're just going to leave it like that. And we're just going to look to see. We're going to have to change our columns and fields here, okay, first. So we do have our PIDs. So this is a good field for us to use is process ID. And we may even see, so we have 11,300, 12,224, and 10,172. So we might have a 10,172 in here somewhere. But let's change our fields first. So let's do this a little bit smaller. Let's do, we got to do something that's useful. There's no command lines here. What we want to see is like a image, maybe. Cool. Image might be what we want. Let's put image up here. And besides that, what we're probably going to do is remove some of these other ones. I wonder if I can just do that. It won't let me. That's okay. They should be populating up here. So selected fields. So I'm going to just remove this because we know what we're looking at. Parent ID is not doing anything for us at the moment. So we'll remove that. We also don't need parent command line. And we'll also remove command line because that's not doing us any good. But what we also want is there are some fields in here that show the IP address. I don't know what they're called off the top of my head, but I know they exist. Destination IP. There we go. And there's probably going to be a source IP, which should be the system. So we'll find that and add it. Maybe there isn't a source IP. Nope, there is. Okay, I was right. All right, so we have source IP. Now, what we have here is we can see what the data image is. So we see a lot of Kibana here. That's not particularly useful. We also probably need to spread out our, God, Windows, go away. We probably need to get rid of some stuff that's not particularly helpful. So we'll do that. Let's go ahead and remove this image. And this is some of the stuff that you're going to have to do in a real investigation. Remove the noise. We know it's normal. We don't necessarily care about it right now. Nothing's going to happen if you have to go back and look because you filtered just a little too hard. That's fine. Nothing's going to break. I didn't want to AI assist. Go away. All right. Now, we also want to open up. This time stuff is killing me. I need to give this thing more resources. I'll do that later. I'll shut it down, give it some more CPU. I think it has plenty of RAM. We just need to give it some more CPU action. We're going to say the last 30 minutes. Now remember, in the real world, we would be filtering on host and a lot more stuff to help narrow down the logs because chances are there are tens of thousands of logs per host. And that would make it very, very difficult for you to investigate. So what I want to point out here is that we have this coming along here. So we have shell.exe reached out to our target host. So see that? That's pretty interesting. That's showing that we have some sort of connection. This is going to be one of those logs that you're going to utilize, and it's going to be pretty beneficial. What I do want to do, if it'll let me, I want to reverse these so that we source to destination. It just makes more logical sense to me. So now we can see shell, anything reaching out. So he's like, oh, okay, this is bad. So we see something reaching out to 113. So anything reaching out to the .113 is it reaching back out to our our attacking system. And so we see edge reaching out to that system. You see that? And what's fun about that is, yeah, we definitely did that. Remember, we went into Edge and we downloaded shell.exe before we launched it. So it totally makes sense that we should be seeing that. And then we also see shell making its connection out. So you just solved another piece of the puzzle by looking at network logs. Not only do we look at it, looks suspicious, doing suspicious stuff, but we see it connecting back and we know where it's connecting to. So we also now have the C2 server. So really, really cool stuff. All right, I do want to show you some more fields in this, this log set here. So one of the other things we might want are source and destination ports. So we'll do, not source port name. We'll get rid of that. Remove from list, there we go. Source port, and then we'll do destination ports. There. And here we should be able to see, even though I didn't do it correctly, we should see that shell in the right order. No, we did it in the right order. So we should see shell.exe reaching out to port 80, which we do. So we know which port is being targeted. Now, how does this convert to a real investigation? Well, this is pretty common where you will see that C2 during an attack. And there's going to be, if more than one system is involved, it's going to be reaching out to the same target host. So in this case, we have a couple of IOCs that we could use to pivot our searches. So we can say, hey, I know where the bad guy is now. Now I'm going to see if anyone else is talking to .113 over port 80. I have something very concrete here. And over here on this other side, we have even more concrete stuff. So a lot of times they use the same payload with a different hash. We could search for stuff by looking at the hash. Guess what? Sysmon 1s also have those hashes, which is super cool, right? So let me show you that field here. Right here, boom, hash. So let me make sure this is the right one. Hashes, this is what we want. So now with this, we also have our hash field. So what that means is here with shell.exe, we could look for other systems where this hash is also being seen. And this hash could pop up in your EDRs, it could pop up in any tool. But this is another IOC. That's why in your threat reports or hunt reports, you see hashes because they are unique. Now, it's getting a lot easier to recompile and do some fun stuff with malware, so the hash may not always work, but chances are if it's a large campaign, you're going to see these on multiple systems. So it'll at least get you one or two additional systems. The IP will get you a handful of systems. The methods, attackers reuse methods. You know, that's the fun thing. They don't want to have to rebuild their attack chain for every individual system if it's working. People are lazy. Hackers are lazy. Alrighty. Now, let's look at another fun command if we run it on the attacker system. So here we could do stuff like nets. So this, remember, this is our shell. This is our interpreter shell here. If we do something like net user hacker password 123 add, we have just done what's called persistence. So if you look at the MITRE attack, you'll see some persistence. We did that. We added an account that we can utilize as to get back into the system with some other steps, obviously, but it's one of those things. And Now what we can do is, well, we should be able to see it on our Windows host. So if we rerun our query over here, it'll pull in the updated information, and we should see, guess what? We see what the attacker did. So this is that connection I'm trying to help you guys understand, is that we can see a good chunk of what the bad guys are doing just by looking at the logs if we have the right logs. And it is a skill. It's like learning a different language. We have to be able to convey, change all this stuff that we're seeing here and turn it into a narrative. So we were writing a narrative. If an alert popped, it will say, yep, we saw shell.exe execute. It was downloaded from this IP address. When it executed, it reached back to that IP address, and then it created a command shell that then ran these other commands, which created calc, and then it also created a new user on the system. That's that story we're telling based off of the logs that are going on here. You know, I'm not even showing my face today. So sad. Hi. Slacker today, people. Super slacker. But that's what we're showing here. So it's really cool stuff. So great information, Mr. Fun Name. I don't know if I can say that, but yeah. So we got some sysmon logs. We have some PowerShell script block logging logs. We have some regular event logs. So we're showing the attacks. We're showing what they look like in the Windows logs to help folks who are looking at becoming SOC analysts to start wrapping their brain around interpreting this crazy stuff and looking at it and understanding what they're seeing. Now, for those of you who haven't seen a raw log, that's kind of fun too, right? It's, let's see if we can do that here. I don't know why it's so slow. I'm going to give it a crazy amount of resources. I might actually spin this up on a different host, so we'll see. So this is kind of more of a raw look at it before there's some extraction, but you can see there's a lot of really cool stuff in here. So we can see the current directory, so pretty much where the commands were run from, what image. So this is the binary that was loaded into memory when this process was executed. So it loaded net.exe in there, and then it executed that command that we saw, which was this. Boom. And then we can see here the parent image. The parent image was command.exe. And we can see the parent command line, which is just starting up command.exe. So there's a lot of really cool stuff in here. We can even see some fun stuff like product, description, parent user, a lot of really cool stuff here. This is just stuff about the event, and this is more closely what the raw log looks like. And here's the stuff about how it was pulled in. So FileBeat actually added a little bit of information for us here. It said, you know, here's some information to help you understand what I did. So a lot of really cool stuff. And if you notice, this matches exactly the type of stuff we were clicking on over in that side panel when we were selecting what we wanted to see in the columns. That's what we're seeing here. So a lot of cool stuff. Very cool stuff, right? Ooh, man, tired. All right, so if you're just arriving, you haven't been here before, we do these streams on Thursday, 7 to 9, trying to share some experience, share some fun stuff, help people break into the wonderful world of cybersecurity, and it's a good time. It's a good time. All right, so what do we want to do next? Do we have any suggestions from the crowd? What do we want to see? We see interpreter here. We see we saw net user, so that's a pretty basic thing. I'm trying to think what else. The one caveat with kind of what we see here, if there's a thing in Windows called API, so Win API, and it's kind of like using the under the hood stuff. If we utilize that, we're not going to see a lot of those activities in these logs. That's the caveat. A lot of people don't realize that, which is why a lot of attackers utilize APIs, is because it bypasses a lot of this stuff. But it is really, really, really good. Oh, I know. Let's do some PowerShell stuff. So let's look at, let's run some PowerShell commands, and then we're going to look at them in our tool here. So with this, let's do PowerShell, because we can actually create a PowerShell prompt here, and we can say, trying to remember what the command there. It's write host. That's what we want. Write host. Hi. So all that is like a hello world print statement, basically in PowerShell. And now let's go look into Windows and see those logs. So first, let's look in here. We'll reload this. We should see PowerShell created. All right. So let's look over here. So we do in fact see PowerShell created, but we'll reload it to see if anything else happens. We won't see all the stuff occurring inside PowerShell. We shouldn't, or we shouldn't see all of it anyways. I'll do one more reload just to make sure. And look, all we see is that command.exe opened up PowerShell. So that's interesting, right? We did console host. Why aren't we seeing that? Because it's not creating a new process to run that command. PowerShell is the process. Everything that occurs within PowerShell lives within that process, and nothing new has to be spun up in terms of processes. This is a very clear distinction here. But with that, and we're going to, I guess we can utilize this one. We're going to look at our script block logging logs, because that's where they're going to populate at. Okay, so let's get rid of some of this stuff. And what we're going to do is we're going to look for event ID, our event code. We're going to look at 4104s first. I'm just going to click this and we'll edit. Again, this is another one of the ones I know because I've been doing this for a while. And I don't know why it's cut off over there, but whatever. Not now. All right, so next thing is we need to clean up our mess that we have here. And the reason why we're having to get rid of fields is because not every log has the same field. Our PowerShell logs are not going to have the same as our Sysmon logs. So just keep that in mind. That is why we're changing fields. And what we can do if we're interested is we can look at one of these logs, and then we can look at the fields, look through them to find the fields we care about. Now in PowerShell logs, we probably really care about, like, there should be like a message field or something to that effect, where whatever the command was is actually being executed. So script block text. So this is what we want here. So let's add that. So it's script down in the S's. Script block text, we'll add that here. Feel free to ask questions again in chat if you'd like to. All right, here we go. We'll maximize the screen so we can look at it. And now, even though we didn't see them here, right, we just saw PowerShell. Now, with script block logging, we can see exactly what occurred. At a prompt, we said write host, hi. Pretty easy. This is a 4104, and I'll show you again. It's right here. So event code 4104. Now 4103s are very, very similar. It'll show more granular detail and can be beneficial in some cases. but in this case, well, we can do it again. Let's see if it'll let us add another one. Edit filter is for, let's see if it'll let us do an or. Is one of. Perfect. And then we'll do 4103. So one does modules and one does, I think, just the bigger, larger script block. I need to go over to the side here. I wonder if it'll let me. There it is. It's over on the side of the screen. I couldn't see it. So now we're pulling in both. Let's take a peek and see what it looks like. So we didn't get any more events, so didn't really need it, but in some cases, especially if there's multiple modules, we'll see them pop up in here where they're in more detail, so we can better understand the scripts that are being executed and in what order those items were executed. That's the important part, what order. That's going to help us re-piece together this. But to answer your question, 4103s, 4104s are the PowerShell pieces that we want to pay attention to. Let's do something fun. So PowerShell Cradle. Has anyone heard of a PowerShell Cradle, like download Cradle? If not, we can do that really quick and it'll be a good time. So basically what it will do is, it essentially says download this item and then execute it. And we can pretty much do anything we want in the file. So we could do a print host as well. So we could do something like, let me do another one of these. We're going to call it just write host. And this is going to be a PowerShell Cradle. So we're just going to have this printed to the screen. And we're going to save this as cradle.ps1, so PowerShell. And I'm putting it in our folder that we're currently hosting, which should be fine. You have another question here. If you had to search for artifacts in a situation like Mimikatz or any other Privest tool, where would you look first? So the question is pretty interesting, but when we're in an investigative position, the question is, how do we know they were there? Do we have like some spidey sense something was off and so we're looking for them? Do we know how they were executed? Were they done in memory? There's a lot of factors that go into this, but typically we're following the trails. If it's straight up Mimikatz, it's going to show up in our process logs here. We should see it being executed. And then we can use the hash to look it up to see if it is indeed Mimikatz. I will say in most cases, especially if there's EDR or AV owned in the environment, you're not going to see it executed in that way anymore. They will stop Mimikatz, and pretty much any default hacker tool will be stopped. So they have to be modified. And the way attackers get away with a lot of this stuff is they'll do it in memory. So they'll load it into memory somehow, whether that's a process injection, a reflective load. There's a bunch of techniques to get it into memory to bypass what this thing is seeing, and then we wouldn't see it here. We'd have to see some really odd behavior. We could see DLL loads. There are files for DLL loads. I don't know if we're getting them in, but there are files for that. There's a lot of things that we can do, and then we can also just look at weird processes touching other processes. That's the thing as well. So with Mimikatz does what? It touches LSAS. So we should see weird activity there. But, you know, it's a tough question, right? You'll hear this everywhere in cybersecurity. It depends. Completely depends. But a lot of the stuff, this is the disconnect between labs and the real world, is a lot of stuff you're learning in the labs won't work in a real environment. It's more advanced. And so where that gets you into trouble is you start looking for stuff exactly how you'd look for it in the lab in the job, and you're never going to see it that way. Not unless they're just super clunky attackers, but then of course they would never break into the organizations we monitor. They just won't be able to get in for the most part. Or you'll see it instantly stopped, which is great too. So fun question, very fun question actually. Hopefully that answered your question, but maybe left you with way more questions than you had originally. But this is a good case. This is where most of us are going to start. And this is how forensics kind of rolls into this whole thing as well, where we get a lot of ideas and we piece together as much of the narrative as we can through these logs. And then we leverage our other tooling, our other things that we have access to fill in the blanks that are then left. So this could be, maybe I did it in a weird way, but it looks like something's funky is going on. I can't really put my finger on it. Well, with forensics, I may be able to pull an artifact like prefetch that is going to indicate, in fact, that this did happen in this way. Or memory analysis. We do a RAM capture. We look in there, we see the payload, we see the beacon in memory, and we can extract it and analyze it. So there are a lot of pieces that come into this that aren't readily apparent, especially when you're just coming into cybersecurity. Let's see, we got to follow up. Yeah, this was a situation where I found a system that was already compromised and found an artifact in disks. Let's custom Mimikatz. See, custom Mimikatz. Yeah, everything's custom now. It has to be. It just, AV EDR is getting so much better. It just catches. That memory stuff is where it's wild, where they'll do something similar to what we're about to do, which is a download cradle. They download it, it stays in memory, so it never touches disk, and then they inject it into a process, or they do something with it. In this case, we're going to write it to disk, but whenever you're writing code, you're pooling, you have to intentionally tell it to write to disk. But really, it's just sitting in memory, and you can do whatever you want. You could run it in memory. You could push it into another process and run it there. You can pretty much do anything you want with the data. It's all data at the end of the day. So it's no biggie. But yeah, definitely expect to see custom variants these days for sure. But that's fun. You actually got to work something that was real. A lot of folks wait quite some time to start working real stuff, so that's fun. Very fun. All right, so this is going to be our Cradle, or this is going to be our file that we're going to execute. Now we need a PowerShell download Cradle. Let's go to google.com, and we're just going to have AI help us out here. PowerShell download Cradle. And this is pretty much what it looks like. So we're going to take this and we are going to modify it because we're cool like that. I'm going to do this. This is going to be called Cradle.ps1. And then we're going to change our host to this right here. And then we also need to change our port because remember we're hanging out on 8080. I believe that's what our thing's running on. We'll look at it real quick. 8080 indeed. All right, so what this is going to do is it's going to say run PowerShell and then run the following command. So C is command. Invoke expression, that's what IEX means. IEX is pretty common. And it's going to download string. So it's going to download this item and it's going to execute it. So this should do what we want it to do. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure. We'll see. We'll go ahead and exit this. We'll do another shell. It should, yeah, we shouldn't see it actually execute in disk. This should execute in memory if our shell is still working. I don't want to do Control C because it's going to break the process. Come on, baby, I believe in you. Right now, Metasploit is just hanging out. It's not doing what we want. There we go. We can do that. We'll terminate the channel, see if it frees it up. Let's see if we still have shell execution. Maybe. It'll error out if the shell's busted. But yeah, it should run in memory. So we should see when we execute this, and I encourage everyone to do this whenever we're doing labs, imagine in your mind what is going to happen in what order. Because as you start getting further and further along in your career, you need to have the ability to kind of predict the order of events, right? We shouldn't just haphazardly doing stuff. It should be, if I go here, which the person in chat is kind of alluding to, right? If I go here, I should be able to find this thing. If I run this command, it should do this. We should know what everything is going to do and what we get out of it. So just start thinking in that way. Before you run it, what do I think is going to happen? And then check to see if that is the case. So in this case, we expect we're going to create an instance of PowerShell. It's going to communicate to our C2 server, which we will see a log here. Then it's going to execute the our right host message that we did. And then that should be it. So we should also see a connection with sysmon 3s. We should also see a command in 4104s executed. So we should see a lot of stuff. So hopefully that makes sense, right? We're predicting, we should know where all these things are going to appear. That is our job, is to be able to understand what's going on. So let's make sure this works. We should see a connection. Hopefully if it's working, I don't know why it just all of a sudden bogged down here, but we should see a connection eventually. We should see our Cradle being grabbed, and we'll know it's working once it does. It's just being really slow at the moment. Welcome if you're just joining. There we go. There's our Cradle. So it did exactly what we thought it was going to do. And it finished. So we see it also ran PowerShell Cradle, which is exactly what we expected to happen. So that means it ran the file appropriately. Now we should be able to hop into Windows and see this. So let's start with our event code 1. So we should see PowerShell created. Yeah, yeah, it can certainly be annoying. I actually haven't done a lot with Sliver, but it's built in. It's easy. I didn't have to set anything up. Why not? Why not? I'm lazy. It's still a good one to teach. I think it's a little bit more approachable than Sliver. I mean, I have played with it, but I've played with it. And it does have some good stuff. They have I think that's the one with the armory. There's so many of them out there now. I had to go through and play with all of them and look how they were going to do, how they appeared in the different logs and stuff. It's a whole research project last year sometime, I think is when I did it. It's fun stuff though. So back to our logs here, we see PowerShell IEX, new object, web client. We see exactly what we ran. Now the benefit here, okay, so we could encode this, we can make it harder to understand, which we might do that in a second. But what we see is that it just ran this file. We don't know what was in this file. We have no clue. And that's the power of our PowerShell logs here, is that we're going to be able to see what was actually executed. Hopefully. We should be able to. And we do. Okay, good. Woo, good. So we see that this was ran, right? So this is the Cradle command. This is what we saw in sysmon 1. And then we see the right host PowerShell Cradle, which is exactly what was supposed to execute. So pretty much we see exactly what we expected to see here. I mean, this is what I mean. This is where the purple team, and that's pretty much what we're doing here. And this is what purple teamers do. You know, they're running stuff, they're seeing how it presents in the environment they're working in. They're playing with different techniques. They're trying to see how maybe they evolve over time. Do we have the ability to detect them? All, excuse me, all those fun things. That's what they're doing. And I will tell you that is very, very fun to do. I miss my purple team job. But hopefully, if you have any questions, again, feel free to drop. Thank you, C. I'm going to call you C. How about that? Hey, C. Thanks, C, for interacting here. Lots of great questions. He's talking about Sliver. So if you haven't heard of Sliver, it's another C2 framework. There are quite a few out there, open source, some really good stuff out there, some really good options for the offensive folks. So you may see them being used by real adversaries. You may see them being used by your local red teamers. Really good tools, and definitely good to go play around with if you haven't. If you haven't touched any of them, you're just kind of getting your feet wet. Metasploit, I think, is a little bit easier to play with. It's a little bit nicer, user friendly, but a lot of really cool stuff out there, which is why having a lab and playing is so important. Let's see. So it says, I work as a SOC, but I've been studying pen testing for a couple of times. So eventually I will get into the purple team. Cool. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Keep studying, dude. Keep studying. Or gal. Keep studying. It is definitely a lot of fun. I did the R&D for my purple team. Worked at a big bank. It was a good time. It was a lot of fun. Now I'm a manager, so I sit behind the computer. This is my escape every week, is streaming and doing stuff, teaching folks. All right, hopefully that made sense. I do want to show how script block logging decodes encoded stuff. So we can do that really quick. So what we're going to have here is we're going to have PowerShell, and what I want to do is we are going to encode exactly what we did in Kali. So what we want is to translate this into encoded text. So it's pretty straightforward, I would say, right? So we could do something like PowerShell Cradle. We could say encoded, and it would walk you through. And we're just going to base 64 encode it, and we're going to do it built into it. And so this is pretty much what it's going to show up as. This and encoded command, and we just have to decode it. So it's going to be PowerShell, and then it's just going to decode all of this stuff. So what we're going to do is just do encoded. So we can ask, right? Because I want you guys to see how you may do this, how you may play with it. Hey, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, Thursdays, 7 to 9 my time. So we got about 30 minutes left. So minus an hour and a half, that's when we started. So what we need to do, let's say you can just type in how to encode in PowerShell, and it'll tell you. And so we can do the encoding in PowerShell and then do exactly what it was talking about. So you could just say bytes encoding, encoded command. So we could do just like this, something like this, and it should work. And we can test it all on the Windows side. And what you'll find is a lot of attackers actually do this. They have a test environment. They test everything before they run. That's kind of the key. Attackers test. And because they want it to work. I mean, that's the big thing. They want their stuff to work. They don't want to be fidgeting around with it while they're in that environment because they're going to get caught. So they have to prep, play with it, get all the syntax, get all the stuff working, then they launch it and execute. That's part of like the initial part of the attack phase, that development piece. I think there's a fancy word MITRE uses for it, but that weaponizing piece. All right, so what we're going to do, we're going to take our command, which is right here. We're going to take this right here, and we're going to pump it through here, right here, and that should, looks like we have a busted quote somewhere, maybe not. See? So it didn't like this parentheses. We could probably fix it by just doing double quotes instead of singles. Quotes mean weird things in PowerShell. So that fixed it. All right, boom. So we have our encoded command here. And just to explain this script, all it's saying is you're going to use command to hold as a variable to hold our stuff. And then we're going to pass it through here. We're going to convert it to bytes, basically. And then we're going to encode it. So 2 base 64 string encoded. Boom. So now we take this, and I'm going to open up another window here, and we're going to say PowerShell Inc. And we're going to run it, and it should work if it worked correctly. Hey, you're welcome. Thanks for joining. Always a pleasure to have new folks hang out, and hopefully people are learning stuff. All right, so this should work unless I screw something up. Nope, it worked beautifully. Perfect. So this is us testing. Now what we're going to do is we're going to modify our command that we're going to run on the Metasploit side. So we're going to take this. We're going to go back to our shell right here, and we're going to run it. Oh, we did it wrong. It didn't let me. It didn't grab it all. Oops, give me a second. Let's try it one more time. Copy. And it could be, so sometimes when you copy and paste between stuff, you get things that will cause it to break. Like something busted here, which is fine. So it's breaking it apart. So I think there's line breaks in here. We just need to make sure we don't delete anything. So not a biggie. Oh, nope, that was fine. That wasn't a line break. Okay, so we'll try it again. And paste. Beautiful. So something broke. I think it did it twice for some reason. Let's try it one more time. Well, it did do it. We see PowerShell Cradle here. So it did work. And then, although all this other stuff is here, something goofy happened. But this is why you play with stuff, to make sure it works correctly. Now we can go in here and we can look at it again. So we'll run this. God, I keep accidentally clicking that darn thing. All right, let's try it one more time. How are you doing today, Anna? You doing good? All right, so this is what I wanted to show everyone. So we have our PowerShell script here. Look at this. So this is how an attacker would kind of obfuscate what they're doing. And there's so many tricks that they could do in terms of making it less apparent. But we did here. Now it's not as obvious. Now our SOC analysts would have to dig deeper. They couldn't look at this and tell what I did. They just know we did something. That's where our script block logging commands come in. And we should be able to look and see what's going on over here. We'll just look at the last one. It's probably going to look like a hot mess because it didn't execute as cleanly as I wanted. Drives me a little crazy. Okay, so this is exactly what we would want to see. So it would, and I think this is the correct order. So we see, I think this is when we executed it in here, I believe. So we see this run, and it's decrypted, right? We see it run, and then we see it execute what was inside the script. So there wasn't anything crazy in the script. This was it. This is what it did. So there you go. So that is the power of decoding. Even when we had so even when we were running this inside of this, right, it still did all the decryption for us. So it's here, right? We see this, then we see the decrypted version, then we see the command that was within it. So we still see everything inside of it, but the PowerShell logs do all the hard work for us. It makes our lives quite a bit easier. So this is the power of our script logging logs that I wanted to point out to everyone, because a lot of people don't realize what do they do besides just log PowerShell. Well, it decodes stuff for us, makes it easy. Drink break. All right. How do we feel? Do we feel pretty good? It's pretty solid. That was a fun one. What else? Do we have any other suggestions of what we'd like to do? Oh, we could run, we can load Kiwi, and we can dump password hashes on here because I don't care. There's nothing on the system. So we can say Control-C terminates our shell, and we can say load Kiwi. It might have changed now. No, it didn't. Help, because I always forget. And we can just say, oh no, it has my no, I don't have my credentials for my account here. So I don't want to dump them. For shame. Do I want to change my credentials if I dump them? Trying to think what I want to do here. We could do Kerberos. I know there's not going to be any Kerberos. So let's do that. Creds, Kerberos. Is there going to be Kerberos? Should be. It's not domain joined. Yeah, it's like, I don't want to leak my stuff. Although I don't really care about the account, but whatever. See, this is me knowing what's going to happen. And I don't want to do that. We could probably list tickets. Let's do that. Kerberos ticket list. And we can see if anything shows up. I don't think anything's going to show up at all. So no tickets listed. But we can see if any new processes were created. I doubt it because it's done in memory. This whole thing's done in memory. But we can migrate processes and see what that looks like. That might show something. Let's start by reloading. We'll reload. We see our fun little PowerShell command. But we don't see anything about Kerberos. We don't see that. It's done in memory. Interpreter shells are in memory unless you spawn a new process. This is where it's really important to understand what's happening under the hood in Windows. It helps you better understand, well, where is this going to present? Where am I going to find it, right? It's definitely going to help with that. A lot of great books out there. All the Windows internal books are primo, so go check them out. All right, so let's do a process migration. Let's see if that pops up here. So what we'll do is we'll do I think we have a help already here. So what we can do is look in here, and so we'll see how to list processes, which is PS, and then all we got to do is migrate. And it's in here somewhere. Migrate, here we go. And then we'll just migrate to that process. So let's start with a PS. This will help us out. And then we have node running on here. We have a few different processes, and what we're going to do is just jump into that process. One of the things we probably want to do if we have system, which we do, is move into an NT authority system process. So we could definitely do that. A lot of SVC hosts elevated. We can see that here, the NT authority local service, NT authority system. I'm trying to see if there's a more stable process for us to jump into. That would be fun. Search indexer, that'll probably cause issues. I don't want to crash anything. So you have to be very, as an attacker, you have to be very choosy what you're going to inject into. Because you can screw some stuff up. We could try to just jump into a SVC host process. Oh, we have FileBeat. We could probably jump into FileBeat. That would be funny. Let's just hop into one of these other ones. So we want to do the PID, not the PPID here. Okay, just keep that in mind. We definitely don't want to inject into LSAS. That's trouble. So let's just do migrate 1216. I guess we could do spool. Sure, why not? Let's see what happens. Let's find it again. I thought it was around FileBeat. What was it by? Does anyone remember? Definitely don't want to do those higher level ones, part of the subsystem. That would be, here it is. So 2252. Let's jump into that, migrate 2252. See if it works. Completed. Let's just make sure it still works. All right. So let's see if any of that was identified in our logs. This will be a good one. I've actually never looked. I don't know that we'd see anything because we're not creating processes. That would be something else, but maybe a process was created in there somewhere. I doubt it. We do see SVC host pop up in here. That's interesting. So this is interesting that we see it here, but I don't think this is us. I don't think it is. Let's modify our event code. Let's get rid of that. And how many events do we have? 58. What I'd like to see is what type of events we have. So let's do that. Maybe. What we're going to do is we're going to look to see if there's anything interesting, any fields, because I like to see the event name. I just don't know. Event provider. We could probably do provider maybe. Let's see, provider name, channel. Let's look at provider name. Let's see, where are you at, buddy? Where are we at? Provider. Maybe it's further up. Let's get rid of these. So again, the reason we have to exclude, well, not exclude, but remove them from our column is that they're not going to be in every process. Right now, we don't know what we're looking for, but we're looking for something. So this is us experimenting, seeing if there is a way to detect this with the logs that we do have. So it's a little bit of fun. We're looking for event provider. Here we go. So there are sysmon, decom, auditing. Problem is I don't know. Excuse me. I don't know what it's going to look like in here. But this, again, this is part of the fun. So we can look over here. Let's see if it'll let us sort these a little bit. So we got network connections. We got so slow. We're just waiting on it. DNS query. We know it's not going to be a network thing. Well, it is going to show up in the network where it connected, our host connected to it, but it's not going to share that. It's not going to show that the act occurred, so the process migration, which is what we're trying to see. We'll only see that the victim and the C2 communicated, but we're not going to see, well, what happened after the communication. And that's what we're looking for here. We're trying to figure that out. If we have something, we might not have a log that can help us out. We know it's not process creation. We see process terminated. So maybe that shows the process dying. So shell.exe did die. So that makes sense, right? We migrated process, the process died, and then we moved into another process. Excuse me. So that is interesting. But we don't see any of the other stuff. So that's kind of interesting, right? I mean, I didn't really expect to see it in the logs we have. We would maybe need like an EDR log set, and we can try to install an open source EDR, see what we get. But this is just one of those things, right? We're not going to see everything. And it's going to require digging into other resources, other yawning, long day. It's gonna take other artifacts and other tool sets to be able to help you out. So that's why whenever you're in a SOC, you have all these different layers of security because they're helping fill in different blanks along the way. And so part of that job as an architect in that organization, if you go that route, is what am I getting out of this tool? Is it helping fill in the gaps that exist from these other tools? And slowly over time, as you invest correctly as an organization, you start narrowing the gaps that you have in terms of what you can't see. And you become a very, very difficult target to get away with stuff in. So very cool, very interesting. So we have about 8 minutes here. Let me check to see if we got any resumes anyone wants me to check out. And let's see, no resumes. So we don't have to go over anyone's resume, which is cool. If you... Not fair, man. Just hang in there, Mike. Hang in there. We're almost done. I still got to do some work tonight. I'm supposed to be doing some pen testing stuff right now, but I'm hanging out with you folks here on the stream tonight. I didn't neglect you. I'm here for you. But I will need to pop up in an energy drink to do some of that work. But I don't even know, what were we talking about, folks? I don't even remember. We were talking about logs, tooling, all that fun stuff. Is there anything else we want to try out while we're here? Anyone got something they want me to run to see if we can pick it up in the log sets that we have in here? And I think what we're going to try to do is over time, we're going to increase the logs, the type of logs we have in here, and hopefully start narrowing down on the number of things we can't see, which will be cool. DLL proxying, DLL sideloading would be a cool one. Yeah, it would be pretty cool to see that. I know there's a lot of Try Hack Me room. Someone was talking about Try Hack Me. There's a lot of really cool ones. It'd be nice if I could set up an AD environment. I don't have any server licenses, and they're kind of a pain. Maybe I can find a cheap way to do that. Or maybe I'll make it big time streaming, and I'll be able to forward whatever I want. That'd be cool. That'd be pretty sick. Yeah, it'd be good. Honestly, it wouldn't change. So none of this stuff that we did today would look any different in an AD environment. The thing that makes a difference is what they're actually logging. So whether we ran this on a server or a workstation, it's going to appear the same in the logs. Again, it just depends. What do they have enabled? You know, maybe 5 years ago, you'd have less logs on a server, so people weren't even installing AV or EDR products on servers. They were afraid of the impact they would have. Now they're there. And sometimes they wouldn't have all certain things on, like I've seen servers without, because what's funny is when I do pen tests, I'll actually look in logs, because whenever we do stuff like create user accounts or log in with, like, say, PS exec, it actually shows up in the command line. That's a fun one. Let's do that really quick. PS exec. And so I'll search Windows event logs for these activities, so I can just get plain text credentials whenever I escalate. So it's kind of funny. But there's the last few pen tests, people didn't actually have logging on, so I couldn't do my trick. Sad face. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to we'll copy this, and I'm going to CD to PS. Maybe. There it is. All right, here it is. And then I always forget the syntax to PS exec. So let's grab syntax or it won't work. Google.com. PS exec syntax. And we'll do AI mode, because why not? Let's go. All right, so we'll do this. And I'm going to shrink this so I can see over here what we're doing. So we're going to say PS exec. There we go. Then we're going to say 127.0.0.1. And then we're going to say, there's a way we pass user. Here we go. User, test user, tech p, password, super secret, and we're going to say dir. Agree. So it's going to try to connect with all this stuff, which should fail. Error established. So it didn't work, but we should see this now pop up if we say, go look at it really quick. And we're going to add this, and I'm just going to change it in here. There we go. Give it a second. It's coming. I need to move my camera over. That's what I need to do. So slow. I'm gonna give it some more process power for next month or next week. Don't you worry your little hearts. We're gonna make a purr. All right, so let me add command line. Perfect. Let's add this. And we're going to remove some of these other fields real quick, like that one, that one, that one. All right, cool. So this is what I mean here. So if any of the administrators try to log in or utilize your system to jump from system to system, they're exposing their credentials. That's why I love my trick where I just search logs for credentials, because they show up. And very rarely does an organization, well, one, they're going to be on the host, but very rarely do they even scrub them if they're going into a SIM like Elk or Splunk or whatever. So if you want a fun trick to go start hunting for secrets, Windows logs. They're great for us, they're great for them, they're great for everyone. But also don't pass your credentials like that if you don't want them seen. So with that, we can go ahead and start our wrap up for the day. So this was a pretty fun one. We got into a lot of stuff today. It was a good time. And there we go. we'll make the screen a little bit bigger. We did some very light purple teaming. We saw different activities. We saw the PowerShell stuff. We looked at it in the logs. We did a PowerShell Cradle, both plain, encoded. We saw PS exec where credentials were passed in plain text. We used a Metasploit shell. We did a lot of stuff today. We covered a lot of ground tonight. So hopefully folks learned quite a few things. That's the important thing. But if not, come back next week. I'm sure you'll learn something then. So again, we do this 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern time. So just do the conversion for wherever we're at. If you want me to do your resume review, send it to me to my email, and that is on my YouTube. And we do those typically at the end of the stream if someone wants their resume looked at. And yeah, if you're not following, follow, subscribe, whatever it's called on the platform you're watching this on. And until then, we'll see you next week. Happy hacking. Cheers, everyone.